time that ever happened. I don't know what the heck is going on. I don't know if China's peeking in. They like what they're hearing. I don't know what the heck is going on,
The
y'all. But
devil's a lie. We have a message. That's what's up.
yeah, we trying to help people. He trying to do other things. But
We
uh,
coming. We coming.
yeah, we're gonna get into the questions, y'all. So let's just get into the questions. Um, before something funky else happens, and then and then we have to redo this all over again. But I think we will be fine from here on out. But let's get it going, though, man. I'm excited to have you on, like I said before.
Thank
So
you.
let's get it.
Let's go.
All right. So
Let's
the
go.
first question that I have for you is, what are the five P's in real estate? Now, these five elements are plans, process, people, property, and profit. I want to see if you could talk a little bit about all five P's for us.
Yeah, you got it. So, one of the things with the first one. So let's get into the plan. I think the biggest issue folks find is that they don't have a plan. So that is a plan. It's a no plan, right? So I know it's a little cliche, but you've probably heard we don't plan to fail, we fail to plan. So this is where a buyer's consultation is super important. So step number one in planning is to get your own buyer's consultation, and in doing this, you want to look for a local reputable agent, real
Yeah.
estate professional that's knowledgeable not only in the products that are available for you, but also in the current market condition, because that's gonna determine your experience in buying a home. So having a plan of action is super important. A good realtor is going to give you an action plan and then give you steps to follow and to be able to position you to buy. So
Oh,
that's
that's
having a
cool.
plan.
And all real estate agents do that.
Not all real estate agents do that, but the good ones will. So that is
There you go.
something you want to make sure you look out for.
Okay. The next question is, what are some questions
Well,
should
no,
people be?
let me get into the process because you want to know what the next P is,
Oh,
right?
right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So let's go back into the process. So once you have that game plan with your agent, the next thing a good agent's going to do is they're going to refer you to a local trusted mortgage professional to see where you are in that process. Because in order for you to go purchase a home, it's very important that before you start shopping for a home, you get pre-qualified. I tell this to all my families I work with. I said, I would hate for you to walk into a beautiful home, the home of your dreams. It's a $600,000 home, and then we sit down to only find out that you qualify for 300,000. Again, not a bad deal. You qualify, but you don't qualify for the amount, of that one home. And so now every time you look at a home, you're going to feel a little bit disappointed because you're not seeing what that $600,000 home, looks like in a $300,000 house. So it's really important that you follow the process. And so in doing so, you want to make sure that your real estate agent refers you to a qualified, knowledgeable, and reputable. It's very important, reputable mortgage professional to have your consultation, to get your pre-qualification before you start shopping, so that you can, once you do find your dream home, you can submit an offer. Basically, you get pre-qualified, you go shopping, you submit an offer, your offer gets accepted, and then you get keys. you know Follow the
Mm,
process. But if you don't take those first steps, those ending steps are not going to be as easy as it sounds. So
okay.
your buying experience is going to be determined based upon the team that you choose. I always tell folks, who you work with matters. Who you work with matters. I mean, it matters for so many reasons. But one of the reasons for me that it matters is that if you're working with somebody that's knowledgeable and reputable, these folks have access to things that others don't. And so I always tell folks, when you work with me, you're getting my reputation as well. I've worked very hard on building my reputation, working my knowledge base, working with my peers to make sure that I have good working relationships, so that when they see my offer come across the table, they're like, I want to work with homegirl. I want to work with Ivette. I want to make sure, because this girl gets it done. This girl gets it to the signing table. So
Wow.
I feel pretty proud that when I submit an offer, agents are excited to work with me.
Yeah.
And even when they don't accept my client's offer because perhaps we weren't the most competitive one, they still call me up. And for an agent to call another agent just to tell them, I'm sorry, your offer didn't get accepted, anyone in real estate knows that's huge. And I take that as the highest compliment, because that means my peers respect me enough that they, they were hoping I could work with them. So that's big. That's big for my clients. It's not big for me. It's big for my clients, because that means that I'm going to help you get your offer accepted in this market.
Oh, I love that.
That's the process.
So we start with the plan, y'all. You get the plan together, get through the process, and then now people.
So again, going back to who you work with matters. Who you work with matters, because when you're right now, this market is very, very competitive. Most good homes, move-in ready homes in nice locations, priced well, are very competitive. There's multiple offer situations right now. We all heard about the bidding wars, in the last couple of years, and it kind of went away within, the end of last year and the beginning of this year, but it's picked up again. We're looking at multiple offer situations again. And so when you're in a multiple offer situation, you want to make sure your offer stands out so that the seller and the listing agent are going to look at that and go, okay, we want this. This is who we want to do business with. Not just because they submitted the highest price, but because they also have great terms, and also this is a very reputable team that I'll be working with. So all of that is a package.
Right.
It's not just about submitting the highest offer. It matters who you're working with. It matters what the terms are, and it matters who your team is, because some teams unfortunately have not protected their reputation. And so when I see certain offers come across the table and I present them to my seller, I also let them know what previous experiences have been like with that, just so they can take that into consideration as well. It's important that they know all the information. I never do anything to speak ill about another agent, but I give the facts. And the fact of the matter is, if you have a reputation for doing shady things or, whatever, then it's going to come out at some point. So that's super important. You want to make sure that if you don't call me to represent you, that your agent that you do choose in the buying process or selling process has a good reputation, is very knowledgeable, not just again on the products, but also on the market conditions, because you have to be realistic. I have very, very straightforward conversations, very transparent conversations with my clients when I do a buyer's consultation. I let them know exactly where the market is, what they have to do if they want to be competitive. And I let them know, and I assure them that I can be as competitive as they are comfortable being themselves. So I can get super competitive and get them that offer accepted. But I don't want to do that if that's not within their comfort level. Does that make sense? Like, I can only be as competitive as you allow me to be. And so I'm very transparent in what the situation is, how they're going to get offers accepted, and how, they're just going to really right now, if they're not in that place where they're serious about becoming homeowners, then, right now you have to be serious about becoming a homeowner in order to get your offer approved or accepted. So that's definitely a people, that falls into the people section of it.
That was all good information right there, starting with the plan, the process, the people. Now, when we jump into property, what does that look like?
So right now, folks, I think there's a lot of noise in the media that talk about, properties are selling, are either selling really high, or there's, they think that there's going to be this crash. There's a lot of noise going on about the market. And so what I do is I inform my clients, I educate my clients on, one, what the market is doing, but two, the properties right now, they're an investment. They're a long-term investment. And so when you look at it as a long-term investment, right now what we're seeing out in the market is that there's very low inventory. And when I mean low inventory, we have less than 2 months worth of inventory out there. Less than 2 months. We don't have very many homes selling or, for sale right now. for a couple of reasons. One, we're in a time where we went through very low interest rates during COVID time, the COVID rates, the 2s and the 3s, those were COVID rates. Those were an anomaly. That's not normal when you look at the history of, where rates have been. Something more normal is 5, 6, 7. Those are that's a normal range in the history of, homes and selling. But folks got so caught up in the 2s and the 3s that when rates went back to normal, they're like, oh, rates are high. Rates are really not high. Rates are normal right now for what it's supposed to be. But because a lot of us were hoping that those, COVID rates stayed longer, and those that didn't take advantage during that time, unfortunately, kind of missed out on those. So those people that have those 2s and 3s locked in, they're a little hesitant to move. I mean, imagine you locked in a 2 or 3%, and now you want to upgrade, but you're looking at a 6 or 7. That more than doubles your payment.
Yeah.
And so we have to take that into consideration. So the reason right now why we're seeing that it's still a seller's market, even though, the rates are a little bit higher than they were a couple years ago, the reason for that it's still a good time to buy property is because the homes are still, going up in value. They're still going to increase because we're really just looking at normal rates, not high rates to say, so that's really big. Right now, the medium home in Fresno, we're looking at about $375,000. That's the medium home in Fresno. And so we have to look at, okay, so most people are going to qualify for the 350 range, 375. So imagine how competitive it is when you have all these, this abundance of buyers who want to become homeowners who are all in the same playing level field.
Yeah.
And so it's really important that you sit down with your real estate professional and get that game plan going and have realistic expectations. And one thing that I have to always emphasize to every buyer I sit with is this is not your forever home. This is your step into home ownership. This is a way to leverage equity. This is a way for you to start building that equity, because in a few years, and yes, okay, maybe I tell most folks 2-3 years, you could probably turn around and sell it. That's not necessarily always true. I get it. Sometimes it might take a little bit longer, 5 to 7, but regardless, it's not your first home typically is not your forever home. And so, but if you start building equity, then you can take that money that you built over those, let's say 5 years, and then turn around and put that money into now a home that you really do want to live in, that you really do love. So I always tell folks, this first home, let's get you into your starter home. Let's build up your credit with this starter home. Let's build up your equity with this starter home. Because although you might think the rates are high at 6 or 7%, rent is 100%, my friend. If you're paying rent, you're paying 100% interest.
Yeah.
You get nothing back. So I'd rather pay 6 or 7 gladly than have to pay 100% of interest. Does that make sense? And then folks start negotiating in their own mind, and they're like, well, we'll just see if the rates come down. If the rates come down, that means more buyers are out there. That means you're competing against more people, because the money you're borrowing is now cheaper, so more people can afford to borrow that money. Right now, so what I like to tell folks right now is marry the house and date the rate. Marry the house and date the rate. The rates are going to
I like that.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes, marry the house, date the rate, because you're going to keep the house, and then when the rates go down, because the economy, we're seeing rates go up and down. When the rates go down, refinance and just get out of that rate that you don't love, and now, get the one you do. But you already have the house, and you're not competing with 20 other folks out there for the same house.
Yeah.
So property, as long as you look at what are your non-negotiables. Like, let's say, for example, if you were looking for a home and you were saying, okay, these are I have to have a 3-bedroom. It has to have at least 1.5 bath. It has to be on this side of town. It has to be, in a safe neighborhood. Okay, so those are your non-negotiables. If I can find you a home with your non-negotiables, you got to move on it.
Right.
If you're serious about home ownership, you got to move on it. It might not have the perfect color outside. It might not have the perfect, color inside, but those are cosmetic things you can change as you go. Or you can just wait it out, and then when you sell that home, just take your equity and then go paint the house you really love the color you want.
Right.
Again,
like
it's
that.
a stepping stone. It's a stepping stone. So property, it's your stepping stone, but you have to be realistic about the property and the market, situation that we're facing right now.
Yeah, so let me ask you this question because I know all my investor friends and everyone, since COVID and everything that's been going on, they said that there's supposed to be a crash happening. You mentioned it a little bit ago, and I want to entertain that because obviously we all gonna be playing Monopoly, right? If that happens. So what are you seeing in the market right now? Do you think that there's gonna be a crash, or you think that we already had it through COVID numbers?
See,
What's your thoughts?
A crash to most people is the housing market just went down. I think a crash most people refer to is like what they saw back in 08, 09,
yes.
when people were losing their homes. We saw a lot of foreclosures, a lot of short sales. But what most people don't understand is that during that time, there was millions of homes that were just sitting on the market because we had an overflow of homes. Like we had more homes available than we had buyers available.
Yeah.
And so what happened in the whole 08 thing, when we had a surplus of inventory, which was our first problem. So we had a surplus of inventory, and two, the banks, they were doing something that they're not doing anymore because a lot of laws and rules have changed since then because of that situation. So in 08, what we saw is that if you had a pulse, you could buy a house. If you had a pulse, you could buy a house in 08. It just didn't even matter. Banks were just giving out money. Are you still with me? Or did I lose you? Come back to me. I'm telling y'all, this is so good. This is so good. That's why this is happening, because this is so good. Stay encouraged.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
It's okay. It's okay. So where was I?
Yeah, about the market, there's a surplus.
So there was a surplus of homes.
Yeah.
So that was the number one issue in 08. There was a surplus of home. Plus the banks were not really regulated the way they're regulated now. So loans, it was very easy to get a loan. That's why I said if you had a pulse, you could get a loan. I was 23 years old, and I was able to purchase a home at the age of 23 because the lender that I uses stated income for me to get in there, even though I wasn't making $10,000 at that time. He put that I was making $10,000, and guess what? I qualified for a home.
Wow.
It was that easy to buy a home at 23 for me back in 08. But what happened also, there was a lot of predatory lending with rates that were not fixed rates. We had a lot of adjustable rate mortgages. And so when those mortgage rates adjusted, people couldn't afford their payment anymore. So there was a lot of predatory lending happening along with the surplus of homes. That's not the situation that we have right now. We definitely don't have a surplus of homes. I mentioned earlier, we have 1.7 months worth of inventory right now. That's not a lot of inventory. A healthy market is usually 6 to 7 months worth of inventory. That's a healthy market.
Yeah.
About 6 months. We have 1.7 right now in our current market. So that's why it's a seller's market still, even though rates are going up. People still need to get into homes, and so they're still willing to pay for these homes, at the 5, 6, and 7% rate, because we all need a place to live. We need to get that home. So the difference between what happened in 08, 09 during that era from right now is that we no longer have predatory lending. Right now, there's a lot of regulation on how, when you get a loan, there's a lot of paperwork that gets involved. You can't just go stated income without actual documentation. We're not looking at predatory lending with the arms anymore. So there's a lot more transparency in the mortgage industry that is allowing for, it to be a healthy market right now for folks and get into fixed rate loans, 30-year fixed rate loans. And so we're definitely not in the same situation. So when folks think that there's going to be a crash, I've been hearing that there's going to be a crash since 2020. And those people that in 2020 told me they were going to wait for the crash, we're in 2023 and now they're like, okay, maybe we need to step in because there's obviously not going to be a crash. There's not going to be a crash. If there was a crash, the last thing that we're going to be worried about, I promise you, is going to be the mortgage, because there's so many other factors that are going to be happening. People are losing their jobs left and right. I mean, there's so many things that are going to be wrong with our economy before it actually affects the housing market if there was a housing crash.
Got you.
So even though I'm not an economist, it just takes a little bit of common sense and getting educated on what's happening in the market right now. So I don't predict that there will be a crash. I think there's an adjustment period. And I think we saw that adjustment period towards the end of last year and beginning of this year when prices started adjusting and sellers started had to become more realistic on the pricing, because in 2020, you could have listed a house at whatever price you want and probably gotten that price. In 2022 and 2023 at the beginning, I think sellers had a reality check and they had to be a little bit more realistic on the pricing in order to sell their home.
Yeah. In 2020 we moved.
Really
I made $180,000 on my home, and I was only in my home for October of 19. I moved to Vegas and we sold May of 2020. March or May? May of 2020. Made $180,000 on the home quick. I didn't do no upgrades, no nothing. Just straight up.
And so that's what people thought, was going to continue happening forever, and it came to a halt, and so now it's a little bit more realistic. So even when I sit down with my sellers, I have a very realistic, conversation with them, and I won't even take on a listing if we're not going to be realistic on the terms. Like I don't, there's no point. So I always want to make sure I work with people in full transparency and I set correct expectations so that they're happy at the end of that transaction. But folks have to remember, you can't just listen to the media. The media is going to feed you the information that's going to sell news. They don't always
That's their job.
They don't actually always give you the right information. They're going to give you things to put fear a lot of times and put, doubt, so that you keep tuning in. They want you to keep tuning in.
Yeah, people do.
Yeah.
And people do, right?
So that's why we have to be a louder voice in our communities and actually educate families on what's going on and what's happening in our current market in our area, because every market's going to be different. The LA market is not the same as the Fresno market. The Bay Area market is not the same as the Fresno market. So every market is going to have its own temperature, and that's why I say it's super important that you're working with an agent that understands the current market conditions, because that's going to set you up for success.
Yeah. And that's why you turn it up. I love it. So what we're talking about we're on question one.
We're still on profit. We're still on profit. And I know you were asking me about house hacking or, some of those things. You mentioned something very key. You bought during a time where you built a lot of equity really quickly, and you were able to, take that equity and do what you did with it. And so I use that as an example for house hacking. I bought my second home in 2019 before the whole COVID thing happened. We bought it in 2019, and in 2020, we built so much equity that we were like, oh, shoot, we can actually do something with some of this money. And we were able to purchase our second home and move into our second upgrade home and rent out our first home. And so we became landlords in a matter of a year and a half to almost 2 years. And now we have an investment property. because
Love
we moved into our first home that was not our forever home, but
it.
it's a nice home in a nice area, and we were able to take some of the equity from there to put down the down payment on our new home that we currently live in, and and became investors pretty much, in that simple of a way.
Yeah,
So you
I
don't
love it.
have to be a flipper or a wholesaler to invest in real estate. You just have to, you could do it the way that we did it, where you just buy your first property, build some equity, take some of that equity, buy your next home, and then you can repeat the process every 2 years.
Rinse and repeat. Yeah,
That's it.
I love
And
it.
all of a sudden you start accumulating in your real estate portfolio just by doing that simple tactic.
Yeah.
So it can be that simple. Or are you into investing? Are you like in wholesaling or any of that, flipping homes?
I was into flipping for a year, and then started building with the money. I started building my own. I have two businesses out here. I have two businesses out here, like everybody knows. And then I stopped, but I am looking about in 3 months. I'm a VP for Black and P Living Water, and I'm growing that business. My intentions over there and try to
Right.
build them up. But as soon as I'm 90 days is up and I'm starting to build again, I'm looking to do some stuff in Tulare. I want to I actually want to get into doing like maybe a apartment complex or a multiplex, something like that. I really would love a hundred unit apartment complex,
Okay. All right.
or something like that.
Go big
I
or
don't
go
know.
home. Go big or go home.
Yeah, I got denied twice though in Tulare. So I'm kind of like discouraged about that in the area that they're building in. But
Well, and that falls into a lot of the politics side of it too. So
yeah,
that's, there's a lot of red tape when it comes to building and new builds, because there's zoning and there's, things like that you have to get into. But I actually just worked with some young investors not too long ago that they're in their early 20s, literally right out of high school. And they wanted to get into investing in real estate and building their real estate portfolio. Well, we were able to secure their first property, which is a triplex that will literally start making them money as soon as they move in. As soon
yeah,
as they move in, they can start making money, and then get to a position where then in a couple of years they can repeat that same
process.
concept again and start building in that way. So they're very excited, young entrepreneurs, and they want to build their real estate portfolio. When you don't have a whole lot of money to begin with, there are ways to still get started. You just
Yeah,
have to, again, the right people, the right team, the right creative financing. And that's what my team is very creative when it comes to financing. We can get very creative with it. Still all, legal, still all very, within compliance, but we get creative about it.
yeah.
That's all that we do. So there's ways to still continue to build your portfolio, even if you just have a 3.5% down.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. And thank you guys all for tuning in. Again, if you guys are just tuning in, we're talking about what are the 5 P's in real estate. We just got through the plan, the process, the people, the property, and we're about to jump into the profit. So stay tuned in here. We're going to be talking about some really good things as we keep going through. So yeah, and we're going to dive into it right now. Profit.
So the profit, really comes with making sure that you are choosing the right properties for yourself. So again, going back into, repeating the process. These young entrepreneurs, they bought their triplex. They're going to stay there for a couple of years and then move and they're going to get another multi-unit. And so as long as they keep doing this process, really they're coming out of pocket on their first one. They were qualified FHA. So when you get qualified FHA financing, basically you just need as little as 3.5% down to be able to get into this property. Their next property, because it's their second property, they'll have to put at least 5% down. But still, it's very doable. You don't need 20% down because they're going to live in the property. So as long as you live on the property that you're purchasing, and you have, you know, a lease agreement or whatever showing that you're going to be able to lease the previous property, then your mortgage professional should be able to guide you on what steps you can take to be able to repeat that process and start building your portfolio. As far as profit goes with like, I know there's flippers and wholesalers. We're seeing them. I mean, if you're on TikTok, you're probably seeing every time you scroll, you see another TikToker on there talking about, you know, how they wholesaled or how they do. That's a whole different animal. If you know, if you really
Bird watched. They call
my
it bird watch.
my suggestion for anyone who wants to go into wholesaling is really do your homework. You know, make sure you're taking calculated risk. Folks on social media, remember, they only show you the highlight reels. So you're only seeing the positive side. You're not seeing all the losses. You're not seeing what it really, you know, sometimes takes, the loss that it takes to build that portfolio. So really do your research. Link up with someone that maybe is doing it and start doing it with them to kind of learn the process and get to know some of the folks in the game. I think that's the best way to start kind of building on that. But also remember, so I'm not a licensed securities, you know, invest professional. This is just from my experience in what I've done in the last few years in real estate. But it's really important that you don't mistake facts for like the trends and stuff that you're seeing. So it's really important you do your homework before you get into the flipping, because there's other factors that you need to take into consideration. Some of the homes that we're seeing sitting on the market right now, they were from flippers that, you know, bought the home very high thinking it was going to appraise right away, like in, you know, a few months, and they were going to be able to just turn around and sell it for more money. And that's not the case. That's not what's happening. And so you know, buyer beware. You have to make sure that you really do understand the market conditions, because it's, you know, some people make it look easier than it really is.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. What are some, let's get into number two is, what are some questions that when somebody's looking to buy that they should ask?
Okay. So if you are wanting to buy, the first question I think that most people ask themselves is, you know, am I ready to buy? Or is this a good time to buy? I'm sorry. Is this a good time to buy? That's the number one question I get all the time is this a good time to buy? And my answer is always, it's always a good time to buy when you're ready to buy. You have to, are you qualified? Do you have the down payment? Or do you have realistic expectations? Are you working with a reputable team that's going to help you through the process? Like,
Right.
are those things that the 5 P's that we talked about, are those in place to put you in a position to buy? Because it's always a good time to buy real estate. You know, it's always a good time. You know, I saw that Snoop Dogg TikTok that talks about real estate, where he's all like, you don't buy real estate and wait. What did it say? You don't wait to buy real estate. You buy real estate and wait. You know, you just acquire it. That was Snoop Dogg. I didn't make that up.
Oh, I was like, and she's a rapper? We just was talking about she was a real estate agent, a preacher, and now she's a rapper? Nah. No, I love that, though.
But it's true, though.
It's so true.
So true.
So true.
So true.
Yeah.
You buy real estate and wait. Our first property that we bought for a little over $200,000 right now, you know, it would comp out over 400. Easy. And I haven't even done I've done some upgrades, but not enough for it to, you know, 200,000.
200,000. Put it in
like,
the bank. Let's go.
You know? And so that's, you know, if we wanted to do, but the reason I don't say this again to try to impress you, but impress upon you, like you said earlier, that it is doable, because this was my second home. I lost my first home due to a foreclosure in 08, you know, when all that was happening, because I did get caught up in the predatory lending. Nobody explained to me about adjustable rate mortgages. Nobody explained to me, you know, what was going on. I just got into, I just knew that home ownership was important. I wanted to create a stability for my daughter. And so I bought a house, but without the information, without the education. And so I lost that house, you know, due to predatory lending. And that was very discouraging and almost embarrassing. You know, a lot of us walked around after that 08 crash, and we were very embarrassed for a long time, because we're like, man, we felt like we let ourselves down, we let our families down. And that was not the case. We were just not guided in the correct way, and we were not educated in what was happening. And so one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about educating folks in the real estate, about real estate, is because I don't want them to go through the experience that I went through, where I didn't know. And I just, I bought a home and then got caught up in what was happening. And so I make it a point to explain to folks and educate them on taking calculated risk. And so you want to ask yourself, am I ready? If the answer is yes, then proceed. And if the answer is no, then get that game plan going so you can put yourself in a position to buy. And then the second part of that was the question, once you're in the process, once you're buying the house, you ask me what kind of questions should they be asking once they're already in the buying process. Yeah. I have this conversation with my clients, and I say, once we're in escrow, you need to understand there's no such thing as a perfect home. The home is going to have problems. It's going to have issues. It comes with baggage. The question we have to ask ourselves is, can we live with what it comes with? Yeah. The major items that we want to look for are those most expensive items. The AC. Is the AC good? Is it working properly? How much life does that AC have? The roof. Is the roof good? Is it secure? How long is that roof going to last? The foundation. Is the foundation good? Do we have foundation issues? The plumbing. That could be a very expensive cost, if you don't make sure that the plumbing is in good condition. And the electrical. How's the electrical doing? So as long as you check the major items that are going to be the most expensive once you get into the home, and those things check off, there's going to be small leaks. There's going to be things that you're going to have to take care of as a homeowner, because that's what homeowners do. We take care of our home. We have to get a pest service. We have to get lawn service. We have to get those things that perhaps you weren't paying for when you were renting a home. But now it's your responsibility to ensure that the home has a longer life. Yes. I love it. So those are the kind of questions you want to ask yourself before and during the process of buying a home.
Man, I told you, Ivette Chavez, no joke. she got it packed down. But I was going to get into number 3, but I think I'm going to go to number 4, but we'll go over it. When is the best time to buy? You covered it. When the best time to buy is when you're ready, right?
That's right.
You want to touch on it a little bit. That's pretty much it, right?
That's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is. Nice and simple.
All right. And so let's jump into number 4. Can you talk about some of the programs that are available to purchase a home? The reason why I asked this question is because a lot of times I don't think people understand some of the process you were talking about already in the beginning, but they don't understand that there's programs or things out there that could help them get into a home. So that makes them kind of fearful and really, what I was telling you, they don't even know where to start. But if they knew that there's a program out there for them to put them into a home, then they're more likely to do that. So can you talk a little bit about the programs that are out there that could probably help somebody get into a home?
Absolutely. So I want to disclose I am not a mortgage professional. I am a real estate professional. So I don't deal with the actual borrowing of the money. However, I've sat in enough buyer's consultations with my clients that I do have an understanding, and I stay very connected to my mortgage officer. And so with that, I do understand a lot of the programs. So there are, depending on the area you are, there are city grants. A lot of the cities actually offer money for you to become a homeowner. So there's city grants. There's grants that are offered by different organizations in your community. So there's also community grants that are offered. There are state loans. So USDA loan is a state loan that's available in California. It's for those that are in rural areas. So a lot of Tulare County the home could qualify for this type of loan, where in this type of loan, there is the program takes care of your down payment, and all you have to come in is with your closing costs. So it's a huge help, and you don't have to pay that money back. So there's no strings attached to it. It's a type of loan that exists for our community, and so but the home and the person both have to qualify. And I'll do a little disclosure when I'm done with the third one. And then there's also loans that are offered, there's also programs that are offered by certain lenders. And so there are lender programs such as CalHFA or other types of loans that or programs that these different lenders offer. Every lender offers different types of programs. And so that's why I say it's important for you when you do link up with a mortgage professional to find out how much access they have to how many different lenders. So when you meet with the mortgage professional, you're typically meeting with a mortgage officer. You're meeting with a loan officer. That loan officer either represents one entity, like let's say if you go into one of your local banks. I'm not going to name any, but let's say you walk into your local bank. That mortgage professional only represents that bank, so they only have access to one lender, whoever you walked in. However, there are mortgage brokers that represent multiple lenders. For example, my preferred lender represents over 70 different lenders. So he has access to a lot of different programs that if you walked into one bank, they might not offer. And so instead of having to talk to 70 different mortgage professionals, you talk to one that allows you to have more flexibility in choosing the program that's right for you. Now, that may not always be a right fit for you. So that's why it's important that when you meet with your real estate professional, they explain to you what the good and the bad is about working with certain types of lenders or mortgage professionals. And so I always do that. I don't, just because I have a mortgage professional that I prefer to work with, doesn't mean that you have to work with my mortgage professional. You can work with your own mortgage professional if you have somebody that you trust and you want them to handle your financing. But I will always make sure that I'm there present to advocate for you. My number one priority is to make sure to protect you, to protect your monies, to advocate for you, because even though your mortgage buddy might, you might trust them, I want to make sure that they have your best interest in mind when they're offering you a product that is not just based on, how much commission is going to be made, but based on how much money they're going to save you. So I'm going to add that. But taking a step back, the programs that we're talking about, a lot of these programs do have requirements and qualifications that have to be met. So when I sit down with folks, I always tell them, if you do not need this assistance, do not take it, because this assistance comes with a price. Usually those programs, although they do help certain individuals, they are at a higher cost. It costs more money to use those programs. So they do come at a higher cost. And so I'm always very thorough when we sit down with the client and we explain, let's say, for example, they qualified for one of the city grants that are available. But let's say that city grant comes with some strings attached. It's my responsibility and the lender's responsibility to explain what the cost of borrowing that money is going to be to that buyer. Now, if they feel comfortable moving forward with that, then let's go, But if they have the monies, then you don't really need to borrow those monies at a higher rate, pretty much. There's other ways. And that's why working with a good mortgage professional, they have very creative financing where they can find other ways for you to still get the help that you need, maybe with the down payment or with some of the closing costs. Yeah. And without having to borrow that money or without having to meet those very strict regulations that sometimes are put upon those grants or those monies. So if you don't have the money at all, let's see if you qualify. But if you have your own monies, it's probably going to be it's going to save you more money. It's going to be best for you to use your own monies. Either way, we're going to present all the options to you. And at the end of the day, you make the decision on what's going to be best for you.
I love that. I love that there's so many different ways to get into a home, and, clarifying that. And maybe there's somebody out there that is looking to possibly get in a home or thinking about getting in a home. Look, there's so many different opportunities for you to get into a home, and she just laid it all out there for you. But it's going to take a plan of action. It's going to take you to step out in faith and go reach out to somebody. And and do exactly what she said. It's time for you to do your education. It's time for you to step out and do the process and walk all the way through it for you to get there. Nobody's going to go hand you a home. You're going to have to go get it yourself. But here's an opportunity for you to understand that there's so many ways to get into a home. There's so many opportunities, and now's the time to go do that. And I believe that there's somebody out there right now that is possibly thinking about that, and I'm here to tell you, now is the time. Yeah, don't wait any longer.
And I'm going to add, I want to encourage you that if you've been thinking, I want to buy a home, but you think, oh, I can't qualify or not me. I've helped 19. My youngest client was 19 years old when he bought his house. 19 years old. 19 years old. So, and bought a home. You cannot tell me it's not possible. This young man set himself up to make sure that he was in position, and we were able to help him. And he was referred to me by another friend, and he didn't even think he would qualify. I remember when we sat down the first time, he was like, I don't think I'm even going to, but I want to at least see where I'm at. And I'm like, dude, you qualify. What do you mean? You have good credit. You have money saved up. You qualify for this much. And it wasn't a whole lot. I mean, he qualified for 250, but we were able at that time to get him in a home for 250. And then I just got a call from him. So this was in 2021 when he bought his home, and he just reached out to me a couple months ago, and he's like, hey, Bet, I'm ready for that next house, and guess what?
Here we go.
We're putting a game plan in place because now he's thinking bigger. And so, but 19 years old, my youngest client. And so I also wanted to add, we even have loans for folks that maybe don't have their documentation complete right now. So those if you don't have your social security number because you're still going through the legal status, and maybe you have an ITIN, as long as you have an ITIN, we can possibly give you some solutions to buy a home. So we work with the community of ITIN. It's a little bit different rules with them, but it's possible. I've helped a few, I say a few because those are, again, it's a little bit harder to get into, but it's not impossible. So gente, si quiere comprar casa, vámonos, si se puede, because we can definitely help you buy that home, even with an ITIN, because most of our ITIN clients, they're working full time, they have good credit, and they just need an opportunity to buy. And they're so scared about putting themselves out there to ask questions that a lot of times they don't. But there's opportunity for ITIN borrowers to be able to get into a home. For self-employed, we have very creative financing. So if you're self-employed, we can work with you to help you, get through the process to buy a home. If you're self-employed, it's not impossible as long as you follow the process. And for those that are low income, again, there's opportunities no matter where you're coming from. We just have to put a game plan together. Some game plans take 30 days, some 90, some a year, some 2. But the thing is, have a plan of action, because before you know it, that time's up.
Yeah. And not only that, what sticks out to me is like, so I waited a whole, I wasn't 19, man. I was 19. I was still partying. I ain't gonna lie. I wasn't thinking about buying a home. I was thinking about all the money I was making and staying with Grams. You know what I mean? So I mean, but there is a, a thing that I'm instilling into my children is building that education and generational wealth, and be able to build assets and having assets out there to make them choose. Because ultimately, for me, giving them, when they turn the age, 18, 19, and saying, here's a home, here's an asset. You got two things you could do with it. You can go live with it, you can go live in it, or you could be the landlord. You can get money, you can start making money now to invest into your education or to your future. Or an adventure that you may want to go on. But I'm here to educate you and help you, and this will be your stepping stone. And so using those things, using your assets. I had a phone call. It's funny. I had a phone call, I want to say 4 days ago. And how the conversation went was, building our future, right? And there's all kinds of tips and tricks for the kids, authorized user programs, setting our kids up, things like that. And I was talking to him about all that, and I was like, one thing that I love that my mentor told me is that always think of your money as an employee. It always has to work for you.
Yep.
And when you're investing into things and you're looking into things, you always got to ask yourself, now, is this making me money, or am I just throwing it away? And so reason why I bring that up is because you got to look at this home. She said, what did you say? You date you marry the house,
date the rate.
1000%. And this is that example, right? Is that now your child can take that over, and all that. But one thing that I did see on TikTok, now that brings it up to me, was that he was saying that not to put the house into the child's name though.
Correct.
So
Correct.
Tell me a little bit about that, because I wasn't educated about that, because I was gonna straight up say, here, put this in your name. Why is that?
So one of the things is we're learning how to build a business around we're learning to build a business all around us. So I've been self-employed since I was 23. I didn't learn this at a younger age. Did we get cut off?
No, you're good.
Are you there?
No, yeah, you're good.
Did I lose you?
Nuh-uh. You're good.
No.
Nuh-uh.
Hello?
You're there.
Shoot. Are you there?
Yep.
Ay. I lost you. I'm sorry.
You're there. Hello? Again, technical difficulties. She'll be right back. But what we like to say and what we like to talk about oftentimes is, investing into our children. So that's what we're talking about. But yeah, you're back.
Okay,
so
I don't know what happened. I'm sorry. I think.
Oh no, you're actually still there. You're still talking. Everybody can hear you.
Okay. So one of the things that I was getting at is I didn't learn this when I was younger, but I in the last few years since we purchased our first home, we learned that it's really important that you get these homes into an LLC or into a trust. And so we have our homes in a trust and in an LLC because we want them to be their own entities. We don't want the government in our pockets, so we have to build a business around it. And so one of the things that's important is because of probate, and because if we pass away, the home goes into probate. It has to go through the court system, and then everybody gets their hand in the cookie jar basically, and then our kids are left with what's left. And so in order to avoid probate taxes and avoid all of that, and I'm not a CPA, you have to see a licensed CPA or a licensed person for this, but we actually went and did this with our homes and did this with our business. We got everything into a trust, so that way the trust owns the homes. And if me and my husband pass away or I pass away, the trust is the one that owns the home, and they don't have to go through probate to make changes. Because in order for someone to be, let's say I transfer or I add my child onto the deed, what happens if when I pass away, my child still needs my signature to sell the home or to refinance or to do anything. They cannot do that unless they go through probate. In order to go to probate, it's time consuming and it's expensive. Right. And so to avoid that expense and that time, if it's in the trust, then the trust is the owner. They don't need my signatures to sign off to be able to sell the home or refinance the home or do whatever they need to with the home. So it's important that you seek legal advice for this, but definitely see a professional and find out what are the benefits for you in your situation to be able to do so. But yeah, we learned that a few years ago, and we moved on it as quickly as possible because we want to make sure, again, we're building generational wealth, and that our children are the ones that are getting this generational wealth, not everyone else.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that was just I was just curious about that, as I keep building and getting educated and everything, just doing the things that I can to be the smartest that I could be as we
knowledge
build
is power. Knowledge is power, Mike. It really is. It's knowledge is power. And so the more knowledgeable we become with with our monies, the more we work so hard for our monies, it's only right that our children keep it. Or ourselves, or but you keep your money, and or who you decide. And so that's one way of protecting your income. But again, you seek a professional for that. But definitely, yes, do not put. We totally go again. We always advise against it. Also, if you put your child on that deed, then what happens is when they go to buy their first home, they are no longer first-time buyers.
Oh wow!
You're taking that away from them. You're taking them away from programs that they could possibly qualify for because they are not first-time home buyers.
So, but if it's in the trust, they can still.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
So
Great.
yeah, that's definitely, and always it's really important that whoever you're working with, they take the time to explain all your options very thoroughly to you, enough to where you're comfortable moving forward. Because if you're not comfortable moving forward, don't do it.
Yeah.
You have to be comfortable. Always trust your gut. That's something that I was not told when I was young. And if I can go back and tell my younger self something, that would be what I would tell myself. Trust your gut. Trust your gut. If it feels right, if it feels like it's the right thing, then do it. But if you feel like this ain't the right thing, and I'm not talking about the fear of the unknown, I'm talking like, you know, in your gut something's not right. Trust your
Mm-hmm.
gut. Trust your gut.
I love it. I love it. Um, but last but not least, obviously at the end of every mogul show, we like to promote our guests. We like to know, maybe future projects to look out for, or businesses that you're gonna put out later on. This is the time that we love to chat about that. So do you have any future projects, any businesses you're about to do expansion in? Are you going to dive into any more things? I know you mentioned that you're going to go get your master's, but was
So
there anything else?
I'm working on my master's, of course, so I can help in the demographic of the first responders. I want to. There's a lot of mental health awareness that we need to take the stigma away from, and so being married to a first responder, it's for me, it's important to give that support. So that's why I'm doing this. But also right now, what I'm working on is getting my broker's license. I do not that I want to venture out as my own brokerage, but maybe start building my team. I definitely next year would like to have a small team of folks that I'm working with on helping them accomplish their real estate goals.
Yeah.
So building a team is definitely in my vision here in the next 12 months. I also it's in motion to start working with the high schools, to start speaking to the high schools and start giving some financial literacy to teens. I think it's important to start at a young age. So I'm looking for resources and ways to get in front of as many high schoolers as possible to start talking about the importance of building your credit and, finances, and how to have a checkbook, and how to, do those things to set you up for success in your finances, in buying a home and in real estate once you become an adult. So I'm working on something with that, and of course
That's
continue to
that.
grow my
Yeah,
real
that's funny
estate.
that you mentioned that. We need to link up because I'm actually building right now. I'm building a program that will help schools. One of the things that I'm doing, as well as getting my degree to be able to be a business teacher. So I'm going to be a business teacher, and also not on just the high schools, but on the college. Hopefully
Yeah,
later on in the college level. But when I'm in the colleges, I want to be able to have a program that teaches things like that within the business and stuff.
basic financial literacy is so important.
So important, and they need that in the life skills for sure. They took that out of the schools, and yeah, they need that back
So
for
I'm
sure.
working. I'm definitely working on something. So I'd love to connect with you on, at a later point on that. But just staying active and just staying, being a voice for my community. That's my main objective, is being a voice for my community and being a resource for my community. If I can be a resource and a voice for you, then I feel great. At the end of the day, I've accomplished what I needed to, because that's the most important thing for me.
I love it. I love it. Was there anything else?
No, I think we've covered it all. I mean, anyone who wants to reach out, just, inquire. You'll never get the sales pushy, thing from me. It's always about education. And if it's a good fit and you feel like I'm a right fit for you, then I'd be honored to represent you in your real estate transactions. And if not, I hope that I can at least provide the resources that you need to make the best decisions for your family.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thank you,
Thank
Ivette.
you.
I
Thank
appreciate
you
your
for having
time.
me. Thank you for
I
having me.
understand that time is the biggest commodity in life.
Absolutely.
And for you to spend your time here with us to educate us, we're very honored to have you
Thank
on as a guest. Thank you
you.
so much. And if you can you put your card in the comment box below? So if people can reach out to you, or a link they can get connected with you, that would be awesome as well.
www.yourhomegirlvet ivette.com, and you'll find me. Just Google Your Homegirl Vet, and you'll find me. I'm in there, man. I made sure I'm you can search me up, look me up.
There you go. You can search her out. But thanks again for everything. I appreciate each and every one of you guys that joined in. Sorry about the difficulties that we had, but I appreciate each and every one of you guys for jumping on. And I'm going to leave you guys with these three things, and these three things I always leave you with. I love you, I believe in you, and let's go make a difference.